Hello, I am Rob Cambeck. I'm part of the product management team at Wonderware. Today I would like to talk to you about 2014 release and specifically around some of the new alarming features and some of the widgets. If you watch this video through at the end of it, I will give you a link, and also at the bottom of the video will be a link to actually download them. They are targeted to 2014. They are targeted to use with application server, and they are targeted to, you can make them work with InTouch, but you would have to unlock them and do some manual things. So mainly focused around application server, and I wanted to show you what the functionality of them is. In the first part, the first thing I want to cover is what set is there. So there are a couple of different variants. You see these small counters in the buttons. They are actually, I call them button widgets. So those button alarm widgets, they basically are in the bottom here, and they give you the severity counts per area. So if you basically remember our model, within our model, let's take an example and take a look at a model. So the model here would be, for example, my plat, and my plat has a reactor group and has 4 reactors. So basically reactor group and 4 reactors, and within these 4 reactors you have then certain amounts of alarms. Right now 31, 32 and 34 are disabled. So the only one working right now is our 33 area. So these button widgets you can use on navigation buttons to indicate what the state is, and let's take a look at those first. How we what different variants there are. So it's a wizard. It sits in the graphic toolbox underneath of the basically underneath of the let me show you that. So it sits in the graphic toolbox next to Severity Indicator object. So it's basically a wizard. When you have it, it will be locked. We'll talk about symbol locking later. But basically what it is, it's a symbol that has wizard options. So if I use it on a graphic page, and go to a graphic page, and I'm going to put one of these on, and delete. I can delete that one, I guess. Delete. And we're going to add one of the other ones, which basically means I'm going to put a severity indicator on. This severity indicator now has a couple of options. It can be show the indicator, and then you can choose for a certain severity here on the wizard options on the right. So you basically, if you look here to the right, there are basically severity options 1, 2, 3, 4, or show all. So if you do show all, it shows all, but if you want just particularly wants to show one severity, you show one severity. Yes or no, an alarm border. You can leave them in the graphic toolbox, just replicate them there for your different displays, and use them on your displays in there. You can put an alarm border around it, so it will basically enunciate a new alarm. And then with or without the icon. The icon is the severity indicator 1, 2, 3, or 4. So those are all the options on the indicator itself. And if I do show all, and I basically, if I want to use a warning object, so if I want to make this one work, I can just type in R31, or if you don't know, you can browse. So this is a new feature that we added. Anybody familiar with system platform knows from the past that you could only script this, so now you can actually browse for owning objects. So if I want to hook it up to a particular object that has some alarms, in this case, which was R33, I can put it on R33, and now it's connected to R33. So save and close, and it's symbol of 1. Let's put it in my test window so we can see it. There we go. And then close this off for a second, and oops, bang. That's not what we wanted. Alright, so we go to runtime. Alright. So once we are in runtime here, So what we want to look at is the symbol of 1 and see if that's working. Most likely will. So that's giving me the alarm status indications for R33. Now, what other ones do we have? Let's bring some more of those up. So this is the button indicator. The other thing that we created is a alarm client. It's based on the EAC that resides in the graphic toolbox. So, but this is a symbol. So you will be able to find these symbols once you have downloaded this material. And let me show you where you can find it. So once you import it into yours, you will have alarm symbols, historical alarm page, a runtime alarm banner, a runtime alarm page, a severity indicator, and a severity indicator for objects. So this is actually more for like if you want to put on a page a total counter, and also we have the ability in there to inhibit, enable, disable, suppress, things like that. The alarm banner is just the alarm banner that goes on several pages. Historical alarm page does the historical ones. These two directories, Microsoft.net and supporting graphics, are just the supporting graphics for these symbols. So you can consume it as symbols and configure them as symbols. They're very easy to configure. So if we would add, for example, on our symbol here, I would want to show, let's say, let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's make this 1920 by 1080. Alright. And a offset of 0 and 0. Alright. So now we're going to put a graphic symbol on here, which is the runtime alarm banner. And let's delete this severity indicator thingy. So what we can do here is, let's say I want to hook this up to R33. Control M will bring up the custom property tags. Alright, Control M. Remote desktop is always weird with control things. So this is a remote desktop session. That's why. So one thing, I did a little README in here where you can say what we that is to be used with App Server, preferably, and it uses the new alarm database A2ALMDB. So when you install 2014, you're most likely going to have a database called A2ALMDB, and the security is set to Windows Integrated. So basically, it doesn't need any security options. Also, the time zone is set up to be automatically propagated from the terminal server or the current client. So time zones shouldn't be an issue either. If there are any problems and you need to customize any of that, take the lock symbol, duplicate it, and now you have an unlock symbol that you can edit. The area object here is just where you want it to look at. So basically, often this will be the same. So if it's say R33 area, which is the reactor that was working, and owning object would be R33 underscore area. These are the only two things you need to fill out. Basically save and close it. We're doing our test symbol, which is basically symbol 01. I think we popped it in. So this should now represent R33, all the alarms, and then automatically you will get the severity indicators on the tabs. The runtime grid supports filtering. So if I click on critical, I will only have the critical alarms. If I click on low, I will only have the low alarms. Automatically these counts should be all corresponding, so 1, 1, 3, and 2. Three low alarms. So basically 1, 1, 3, 2, and so that's corresponding. Magenta is the lowest in our system. By the default colors is magenta for the lowest, cyan, yellow, and red. Red is the highest. Right now there's no really like flashy color in here because they all went from an act to return. So basically means that they all return to normal. So if I acknowledge these alarms, it should completely all go away. So now we can wait a second and we can show you the color schemes when a new alarm comes up here. noise when you wait for alarm. And there we go. So this is a severity 4. That is a unacknowledged is magenta, and there's a number 3 coming in as well. So you can actually sort by severity here in the grid if you want to. You can sort by criticality. You can sort by all these things, and you can acknowledge. Try to optimize everything for touch. So if you remember, the EAC has a lot of right-click context, and so in this case you can all it's touched enabled. So let's take a look at the other ones that are in there. So there's a runtime page, runtime historical, or a historical grid. Let's go to that one. Alarm clients. Yep. So here are the two. The page has a area browser. Because that's necessarily, the banner is more for a certain area. So those are the things. Typically the alarm banners, how you want to use them, just as a tip. On the level 1 displays, which is the highest level, the overview displays, you pretty much don't have an alarm banner. You just use the alarm border animations to indicate the highest severity in that area. And those are automatically picked up by the high performance graphics. Then you basically click, or situational awareness graphics, you click on the reactor group, and then you can see the reactor that has a problem, and I go to that reactor and I can see the alarms that are going on. You see the alarm border animation here on the meters, and I can show a level 3 displays, which shows me, so this is a level 2 display without all the information. It's a very quiet display without a lot of information. And then a level 3 display is basically showing the trends, all the tag names and numerical information, stuff like that. So here you can see the alarm coming in, and you see the alarm borders appearing around the meters, indicating where the problems reside. So that's the alarm banner. Then we go to the other alarm client screen. This is the alarm page runtime. So anything that is acknowledged has this inverse color. It's kind of like this is cyan, this is magenta, this is red, and you basically can see that those are acknowledged, outstanding alarms. New alarms will have the bright color, so you can see the difference between old alarms, new alarms. New alarms will have the bright color coming in. Return to normal is, or unacknowledged return will basically be grayish. Because at that point it's not an alarm anymore, it just is a notification to you that, hey, there was something in the system that you probably should look at. These are the total counters, which is done with the alarm aggregation. You saw the alarm aggregation in another demo for me. So basically acknowledge all here, and that's the runtime banner. The runtime banner also has on the left side filter, so I can filter by area. So if I go to just R33, it will give me only the alarms for R33. These are 2 acknowledged alarms that are in that area. Then the historical grid has a bunch of tabs, all critical, high, medium, low, and events. So you can filter out on each of these, and you can do a time frame. So if I want to see the last 5 minutes, I pick the last 5 minutes, and the historical one will give me 90 alarms for everything out of in the system. If I would like to do only critical ones, I can click on critical, and I want to see the critical alarms of the last 5 minutes. Now I can do either, I can filter also by area, which doesn't make a lot of sense because we only have area 43, but if I have more, I would see them here, and I can filter on these filters. I can also do group by, so if I go to all view and I enable group by, and I say I want to sort by severity, then by area, and then basically by state. So if I then go down, I can see what's going on here when people, for example, when operators have acknowledged something, or when a certain group came in, and I can go to clear this. You just click back on the tab, and it clears it out and turn off group by. So it goes from 1 minute up to 3 months. So that's the historical grid. Then we go to let's take a look at these alarm aggregated ones. So these are the nav button ones that will be in the package. The object indicators here, and the area object indicators. The area object indicators you can actually enable in these. They work the same way as the button ones, they just need an owning object. So what you can do here is, this is enabled, this is enabled, this is enabled, and I can go in here and basically go and say, I want to turn these on, switch these off inhibited to enabled. So now I'm switching all the areas on. Yeah. Alright, so now everything is on, all the different segments, and you see all these areas, all these counts, they basically aggregate into this total. So total there are now 3 critical alarms, 7 high, 3 medium, 5 low, and 11 active, and 2 are actually unacknowledged. So totally in my plan I have 2 unacknowledged, 11 active, and this is the breakout. So if I give an ACK all, it's going to take out the unacknowledged and ACT alarms, and basically will bring this total number down, because I acknowledge some of the outstanding alarms that were in the system. So if I want to inhibit everything, I can just click on this, and now everything is quiet, and it doesn't do anything. Everything goes to disable. Inhibit is nothing more than disable. It's the same function. Disable will also trigger all this. Alright, so disable is a numeric, a string data type, and inhibit is the boolean for disable. Enable is just on, and then we have, of course, silence. One thing with inhibit is that you will see if I do an inhibit or disable, all these alarm counters go away, or most of them. I probably have 2 right here that are not in my model, and then basically if you go back to enable, it puts them back. If you do disable, the same thing happens. If you actually go to silence, it's a different behavior. That basically means that the counters will stay. The alarm gets taken out of the alarm summary, but any transitional changes will still be logged to the database. So if I go to reactor group right now, and I go into reactor, I can see that all these systems are silenced, and that it's on silence right here in this area, but it still means that these 3 things have an alarm state right now. So if I go to enabled, let's go, I have to go to the highest area to switch them back off. Right. So let me go back here and enable all these alarms again, and then go back to my reactor R33. So now all these should have come back to normal, right? So if I can silence by area too. I can just silence this and then go back to basically my info screen, alarm aggregation. So now you can see R33 is basically right there silenced, and then the area itself is not silenced. I silenced the object. So you can do it on object level, or you can do it on area levels, and depending on where you want to silence something. It will be indicated on the graphic that something is silenced. In the next release we'll have shelving, which is time-based and will time out, and it will also be restricted by security model, and it will also be restricted by certain severities you can't shelve. So, but today it's all the way it is implemented right now, and it will have all the information on the graphics that you need. Okay, so these were the widgets, the alarm banners, basically the information around the alarm clients, historical runtime, and then the basically the controls for the objects in the areas, including the buttons, and those are all wizard based, and you can see that when you use these. The best is just to make a page like I have here and play around with them and see what they do. So we'll post them after the video. I see the video is 21 minutes, a little bit on the long side, but thank you very much for looking into this, and I will be back with more. Thank you very much.